Hi, pal. Welcome to I've Got Your Back, the podcast. My name is Michelle Sutherland, and this is a place where I want to empower and inspire you to tap into the deepest desires of your heart and discover the magic within. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first season on the I've Got Your Back, the podcast. And this season is all about B Corp. And I'm so excited and delighted to say that Definity is sponsoring this season, all about B Corps. And if you don't know, Definity is a purpose-driven change consultancy for the greater good. So what they do is they help companies become B Corp certified, and they educate young people about social entrepreneurship in B Corp too. So this season is all about sharing everything I know about B Corps, what they are, how you get certified, the movement, what I've seen over the last few years, like everything that I know and have observed about this movement for the last 5 years. Now, why do I believe that this is important? I believe it's important because I truly believe that the B Corp movement and community is absolutely transforming the business world. And I think it's going to have a much greater impact over the next few years. And today, I just want to talk about my B story. So my B Corp story. So how did I even find out about this? How did I get involved? Why do I now have a consultancy that helps companies get certified? I just want to start from the beginning, because I think it's always good to know where things come from, how things are born, what's the nucleus of why things exist, especially with like founders or business owners. I'm always fascinated to know the nucleus of the company, like the heart and soul on the reasons why someone started something. So I want to start right from the beginning. So for those of you that don't know, you might have just been hearing B Corp for the first time. And essentially what B Corps are companies that are verified by B Lab. So B Lab is a not-for-profit, and they're verified by B Lab to meet standards of social and environmental performance, transparency, and accountability. So essentially, it's a third-party certification that for-profit companies or social enterprises can get to say that they have improved their social and environmental impact, and they're accountable publicly from a transparency point of view around the world to their customers, to everyone. So I first found out about B Corp, like let's take it back now to, I actually had to go through some emails in my calendar to find out when this was. And I found it was June 2018. So at that time, I was living in Bondi Beach. Oh, Bondi Beach. I'm actually obviously in Scotland right now, as most of you know, and it's so beautiful outside. The sun is shining, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that I've got my woolly hat on and my all black zipper, because I have this on basically every day. But it's actually beautiful, but it's it's 6 degrees. So it's pretty fresh compared to Bondi right now, which is probably about 36 or 26, who knows. But yeah, 2018, I digress. 2018, I was in Bondi Beach. I was living there, and it was in winter actually. So I do remember it being fairly cold. It was a cold night, or maybe early evening, and I started to go along to what they call Bondi Business Women events that was started by a couple of local women entrepreneurs there. So just a hot tip, by the way, like I'd only been in Bondi, I think maybe a year or two, and I just love getting involved in the community. So I always sort of try and find out, like, the women's events, the networking events, like what's actually going on in that area to sort of plug in and learn. So I think when you have that mindset, if you're open to learning and open to trying new things and open to meeting new people, like a lot of these sort of amazing opportunities come from that. So that's why I believe this opportunity came along for me anyway, or I discovered about B Corp fairly early on. So it was June 2018. living in Bondi, and I was making my way to this workshop run by a good friend of mine now, Rosanna. She's a local entrepreneur, amazing woman, massive respect for her. And she was hosting this tiny little workshop in her office. And she sat and talked about B Corp. And it was the very first time I'd heard it. And honestly, as soon as I heard it and what it was about, I was like, I had that gut feeling. I always get these really strong gut feelings when I just know something's incredible. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to transform the business world. Like, this is going to be one of the biggest movements and one of the biggest certifications in the world that you can get as a company. And I just had this sort of knowing. So, and I think partly because, I mean, Rosanna is incredible and has so much passion, but so much knowledge and wisdom. So she obviously, shared that with me, and that impacted me. So I love it when you go and you hear someone that's so passionate and really truly believes in something, because that sort of influences you. So Rosanna definitely influenced me. I sort of came out of there, Googled B Corp, went through everything on their website, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is going to be massive. And the one thing that I did do is I came out of that, I emailed Arbonne Australia's general manager, Anthony, and I was like, hi, Anthony. I truly believe Arbonne needs to become a B Corp. These are all the reasons why. And I remember him sending him this email, just like, we have to do this. And it was quite funny because I think at the same time we got a new CEO, Jean David, and he came on board, and he was actually really passionate about this as well and knew about it. So I think all of it sort of collided for Arbonne at the same time. We actually became a B Corp 2 years later, 2020, and started the process in 2019. So it was really interesting that sort of was all sort of going on at the same time. I love stuff like that. It's really powerful. So yeah, that was the only thing I did at the time. And then it was sort of on my radar. And then because Arbonne took it on and they were getting involved in different things, they had a new head of sustainability and social impact globally. So I started to get to know Andrea from Arbonne head office, and I started to just learn more. And then in 2019, we obviously were going through the process, Arbonne, we're going through the process of becoming B Corp. And then I started to get involved with B Lab Australia and New Zealand. So essentially, all around the world, you'll have B Labs in various countries that support the B Corp community, those companies. So I think it was, about 2019, I became, or 2020, round about then, I became an Arbonne for Good ambassador representing in Australia and New Zealand. So what that meant is that I would communicate with consultants in Australia and New Zealand, like about B Corp, about our sustainability efforts, about our goals, and really sort of be that voice and sort of get feedback from consultants and lots of different things. So that was a huge learning for me. And part of that process meant I was on quite a lot of B Lab Australia, New Zealand calls. So I was really getting to know like these businesses. And what I loved was that it was the whole movement pretty much globally has been driven by small and medium business. And I loved that. I loved that it was a lot of local, ethical, purpose-driven businesses that were creating this huge impact and creating this community. And yeah, so I started to observe a lot of things. And that was sort of 2019, 2020. But one thing I did observe when I was on a lot of these calls is how rigorous the process is. So, you have to complete like over minimum 200 questions across every area of your business to measure your social and environmental impact. And I remember hearing some of these business owners or CEOs and founders, and they were saying, oh my goodness, I'm so overwhelmed. Like, I'm so overwhelmed by the process. I'm so overwhelmed by the documentation that I need to do. And I just sort of heard a lot of overwhelm. That's what I heard on these calls. So anyway, again, I was just very much from 2018 to 2020, early 2020, I was very much just in a learning phase. I was heavily involved in learning more through Andrea with Arbonne and how we were making an impact. So I was just learning, open. It's one of the best bits of advice I can give you is just be so open to learning, because just incredible things happen. So then obviously 2020 comes around, and as most of you all know, that's when the pandemic hit globally around about March 2020. And so I found myself in Bondi, we pretty much went into lockdown straight away. And the only thing you could do was just go for a walk, one walk a day. Who remembers those days? And personally, for me, although I was hurt by the things that were going on in the world and how this was impacting people, for me personally, I sort of embraced for the first time in my life this ability to slow down, to actually stop. And it was almost like this lockdown gave me permission to stop flying everywhere, stop going, and just be. And so what I effectively did for 3 months was forest bathe. If you've never heard of forest bathing, check it out. But essentially, I was just bathing in the forest, and the walk from Bondi to Coogee every day. I went out and I walked, I jogged, I sprinted. I did this same walk every single day for 3 months. And in that moment, I sort of looked what was going on in the world, and I sort of had this light bulb moment, actually, where I realized that in June 2009, so that was like how many ever years prior, like 11 years before that, that's when we were in the middle of the global financial crisis. And that's when I started my Arbonne business, which fundamentally, I became an ambassador with Arbonne in June 2009. And I realized that one decision, that defining decision, totally changed the next 11 years of my life in more ways than I could ever imagine. And back then, I think it was more a question. I was like, what more can I do for me? And at that time, when the global financial crisis hit, I was like, right, what can I do for me to sort of future-proof my life and my career? And that's when I started an additional business, my first ever side hustle, even though I didn't even know what that word was. That was in, 11 years prior. So I found myself in this other global crisis, a different kind of crisis, but still a global crisis. And I asked myself different questions. I mean, I definitely still ask, what more can I do for me? Because I think it's always important to start there. So I started there. And then because of the learnings of the last 11 years and knowing how important it was to look after community and our planet, I asked myself, what more can you do for you? What more can you do for your family, your team? What more can you do for your community? And what more can you do for Mother Earth? And I really sat with those questions for like literally every day for 3 months, and nothing really came up. I just sort of sat there. You could call it meditation, you could call it mindfulness. I just used to sit under this tree between Bondi and Coogee and just look at the ocean, sometimes close my eyes, and I just used to sit with those questions. And then after around about 3 months, all of a sudden, I was just like, oh my goodness, like I know what I'm going to do. I know how I can help other people in the world in this situation. And that's when I actually founded Definity, and the business model became so clear to me, but I had never seen it that clear before. And so what I did is I basically typed up the whole mission and the whole purpose of our Definity. And that was that, one, I sort of said, well, with my unique talents and gifts, which is I used to work for Hewlett Packard, an IT company, in change management and employee engagement and communication and social impact. Like I have those skills to help people change. And so I thought I can use those talents and gifts to offer B Corp consulting, because I know that people are struggling with this process. I know that people want the certification and it makes sense for lots of reasons. But equally, people are struggling with the process. So if I can help them get through this assessment and get them certified, that's going to help businesses of today improve. And if I take a percentage of the profits and I put it into this, what I called a social entrepreneur fund for young people, then we can educate them at like 14, 15, 16 years old. Because I don't believe a lot of our education systems are fit for purpose. They were maybe fit for purpose, 40, 50 years ago, but now we live in a very different age where I don't believe, young people are given the ability to critically think, to look at the world's problems and come up with ideas and, really apply a lot of what I've learned through entrepreneurship, especially, impact-driven entrepreneurship, where you're solving a real social and environmental problem and, bringing a solution to the world. I thought, why don't we create this fund? We'll take a percentage of the profits from B Corp consulting and then we'll educate, inspire, empower, like whatever it is we do in this side of the company, at least it will be funded, because I didn't want to start a not-for-profit because I know how difficult it is, because I've worked for not-for-profits as well, to raise money and keep it sustainable. So I wanted to create this sort of sustainable income to fund this education work for young people. And the reason I was so passionate about that is because, yeah, maybe I was that person as a young child that was very average. I failed English twice. I failed maths. I always thought quite differently to basically more of the academic people I was around. I just never really enjoyed being in school that much, because I felt that I was constantly failing because I just didn't pass exams that were set and topics that were set from a completely different age. So I suppose in that sort of personal experience, that's why I was so passionate about social entrepreneurship. And again, I was sort of learning a lot about social entrepreneurship again from like probably 2016, 17, 18. I was learning about that as well as learning about B Corp, and I could see how they were sort of, they could work together. Anyway, so that's when I came up with Definity, and I decided that I would just go about and see if I could help people that I knew that were going through this process or were finding it really hard. And so essentially that's what happened. Set up Definity in June 2020. Fast forward today, we've helped 7 companies certify. We've got, I'd say, probably with 30 more clients in the process. We've never paid for advertising. It's all been word of mouth referral, which has been incredible, and so grateful that that's come that way, because I think that's the most powerful form of marketing and advertising. We have developed a social entrepreneurship program that we piloted with my friend Jess. Hi, Jess. In Mount Gambier High School in South Australia. And we're now bringing that learning from that pilot program in the school to build a program online, which we're just sort of finalizing and looking to fundraise money for it and get that money to create that program online. So it's a bit of a mad story. Like sometimes I'm like, what just happened in those 3 years? But I think it's a mix of 5 years ago, being in that room with Rosanna on a cold winter's night. It does get cold in Bondi. A cold winter's night in 2018, learning about B Corp for the first time, listening to my gut, thinking this is something, there's something special about this movement, this community, and this certification, and listening to that, and then just allowing the unfolding to happen, the learning. So obviously learning a lot through Arbonne, being an Arbonne for Good ambassador, learning a lot from Andrea, learning lots from B Lab, Australia, New Zealand, and just being on those calls, just listening. And then finally, when I slowed down, and, I was given permission to slow down in, sort of March 2020 for those few months, I was able to birth Definity. It was able to come to life. And, I often say this to people, but I feel as if because that business was birthed through Mother Nature, of me just sitting in silence and listening, there's just so much flow that comes with Definity. I can't even explain it. Like every day there's a new opportunity. I get another email, someone else comes to me. Like when I explain what we're doing, people are like, I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of it. Like so many people want to become consultants with Definity with me. So many people want to be involved in the education. And I think it's because it comes from that pure place of Mother Nature. And when I ask myself those important questions, like, what more can I do to serve the community? What more can I do to serve Mother Earth? And I think when you come from that place of service, we genuinely can see there's challenges in the world, but you ask, like, what more is it I could do? What more is it I could be? Based on my unique talents and gifts. And I recognize that every single person has got their unique talents and gifts, and we've got to home in on that. And just for me, it just so happened that I had change management experience. I loved B Corp, and I had the passion for it, and I understood it. I was already with Arbonne, that's been a purpose-driven company for 43 years. Like I just had all these things that sort of all came together in that moment in time. and now I just really believe I've sort of observed the B Corp movement now for the last 5 years, getting into 6 years. And it's becoming quite, I still think 9 out of 10 people still don't know about it, but I'm starting to see, especially with B Corp month that happened in March, I'm starting to see it pop up in places that would never have popped up before. Like, just to give you a few examples, like there was a whole write-up in the Qantas magazine about B Corp. There was LinkedIn co-founder, basically has donated $1 million to the B Lab to increase the movement, to help more businesses follow this path and get these standards and, become a part of the community. I'm just seeing a whole lot more that 5 years ago, definitely wasn't going on. So I thought that would just be useful to give you a bit of backstory about why I decided to do a whole season on this. And obviously in March was B Corp month. So we launched the podcast just in March. And now for the next, few weeks and the few episodes, we're going to cover off what it really means. What is it? Like, go into detail about the B Corp process and movement and, the certification process. I'm going to interview some of my clients that have become B Corps, because their stories are amazing and their companies are amazing. And they can really talk from that lived experience of having gone through it. I'm just going to share as much as I can, because I really believe the more people that know about the B Corp movement in the community and this certification, the better. Because I think what's happened is, in business, we've gone too far the other way. There was those sort of last, how many every years. It's a bit like the education system as well. I think the business world went completely out of date, and I think the education system's gone out of date in terms of we've been so driven in business world to just create profit and to give money back to shareholders. And yeah, that's important, but it shouldn't be the driver of a business. The driver of a business should be the nucleus, like I said, the nucleus of a company, the purpose, the intention, the positive intention, the genuine solution of a problem that's felt by people, whether it's social, environmental. Like, I really believe this shift needs to happen, especially in the business world, because the government and not-for-profits can only do so much. And I just think the business world, for-profit business and social enterprises can move much quicker, much faster, can be more agile, can change, can influence so much more than maybe what a government could or what not-for-profit could do. So, and you only need to look around and just some of the B Corps, see that Patagonia, Allbirds, Ben & Jerry's, like massive B Corp companies, but actually lots of smaller ones as well. Like I said, the whole movement, I believe, was driven a lot by small to medium business, which I think is really cool. So that's it for me for this episode. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed that story. That's why I'm bringing you this season, all about B Corp, because it's something that I feel deeply passionate about, but I really believe the world and people need to know about it and understand it more, because I do believe that becoming a part of the B Corp community for your business is going to allow you to be on the right path. And equally, it's going to help you evolve and change over time. And by the way, just to finish off, the reason I called it Definity, thanks to my pal Nick, thank you, Nick, we brainstormed in this, was because I made the defining decision to start this company and commit to infinite change. And I've done that throughout my whole life. And I really believe businesses have to do that as well. They have to make the defining decision to be better, to have a positive impact in communities, on people, on the planet, as well as making profit. And we need to commit to infinite change in order to do that. We can't just do something once and then expect, that's it. I don't think impact is ever done. There's always ways to improve. There's always ways to evolve. There's always ways to change for the better. And so Definity is about empowering people to make those defining decisions every day, to be for the greater good of all, and to commit to infinite change. So thank you so much for your time. I'll see you in episode 2. I cannot wait. And let me know your feedback. I'd love to know. Sending you lots of love. Bye. Thank you for joining I've Got Your Back, the podcast with me, Michelle Sutherland. As a thank you, I would love to offer you a free gift on my website, michellesutherland.co. I am a qualified breathwork and meditation teacher, and one of my fave practices is Yoga Nidra. This practice is a guided meditative practice where you lie down and you go into a deep, restful state. There's plenty of studies that show how this helps reduce stress, anxiety, and helps improve sleep. And a fun fact is, if you do 20 minutes of this yoga nidra practice, it can be the equivalent of 3 hours deep sleep. I hope you enjoy and speak to you soon. Bye.